Hi, it's Donna Wade, 40 Real Estate here in Boise, Idaho, and it's storytelling time. It's a story that is very near and dear to my heart because it's my story, and it's a story of twists and turns and ups and downs. And part of the reason I want to tell it is because I encounter people pretty often who may be struggling with their credit score or maybe struggling with getting their down payment together. Maybe they've had a financial calamity of some kind, a bankruptcy. And I think a lot of times, we present ourselves as an agent. I present myself in a certain way. And I think I talk about real estate as the expert. And part of that expertise comes from experience, personal experience, very difficult and challenging experiences, as well as really great triumphant experiences. So I just want to tell this story in hopes that if you listen to it, maybe it'll give you some insight into how I got where I am today and let you know that I'm here if you want to talk through things or if you want to brainstorm how to move forward if you're experiencing some of the difficulties that I too have been through. So I'm going to take us way back, way on back to 2005, and then we're going to skip ahead. In 2005, I was a new mom of my son, and I was married, and it wasn't going so well. There were some pretty serious issues. I won't get into too much of the, dirt on that, but just suffice it to say that it was not going to be a relationship that could move forward the way that it was, and we agreed that neither of us wanted to compromise in a way that was going to make it move forward. So I got divorced, and I unexpectedly became a single parent. Now, fortunately for me, I had education under my belt. I had finished my MBA when I was still married, and I had a long work history. I had really wanted to go into the nonprofit arena, and I'd already started doing that, so I had contacts, and I was in a position to become a college instructor. I was an adjunct instructor. For about 3.5 years at BSU, I actually run into my students, former students sometimes. And I was doing that along with working in the nonprofit arena and raising my son, sharing custody. I was able to, all of a sudden, with the income I had back at that time, was able to qualify to buy a house. I had bought a house with my ex-husband. He got to keep the house. And suddenly I was able to buy one. I had no idea how that could work. I really didn't understand it, but I certainly wanted to do it. So I got with a real estate agent, looked at literally 2 houses, and picked the second one. It was one of those small, skinny row homes up on kind of the West Bench. But I thought it would be perfect for my son and I. It was under 1,000 square feet. I could manage it, and a good location, all that good stuff. So I got this loan. Now, the loan was actually 2 loans. In order to make it work, I had to have 2 loans, which was probably a problematic thing, obviously looking back on it now, but at the time, I didn't really understand. I just knew that I was approved and I wanted to do this. So I get put into these 2 loans to get this home, and I get a full-time job at a local nonprofit. I'm working as an adjunct instructor, raising my son, working the 2 jobs. So I'm in the home till about 2010. And as most of you probably remember, the economy tanked. It went downhill pretty quickly, and the housing market collapsed. And a lot of that had to do with these loans that were being given to people who may or may not have really been qualified to take that kind of burden on. Well, I found myself running a nonprofit here in Boise. All of our funding came from outside of the state, and it dried up completely. There was nowhere to go. And so I actually had to shutter the organization. It was very painful. It was very difficult. And all of that income went away. I was still teaching, But teachers aren't necessarily known for getting paid that well, and adjunct instructors definitely don't. It's not something you can live on. So I went to work right away, trying to work with my lender to see if I could get some kind of modification to my payment so I could keep going in the home. I'm going to fast forward because it took about a year of me calling, emailing, reaching out. I was diligent. I submitted paperwork, stacks and stacks of it to get this modification. And I'll never forget it. I had just called, and by the way, I'd been told that I'd been modified once and then told, oh no, oops, sorry, you weren't actually modified. We screwed up. It was a hot mess. I had called the day before and had another conversation, documented my process, trying to get this modification moved forward. The next day, I'm in my house. I'll never forget it. The doorbell rings. It's probably about 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning on a Monday. I open the door, and a gentleman is standing at my door and says, hi, I'm XYZ, and I'm here to let you know that your home has been sold at auction. And I was stunned, and I said, that can't be. I just talked to the lender yesterday, and I was still working on a modification. What do you mean? And he said, well, I don't know what happened there, but your house was sold at auction, and you can either leave in the next 14 days and we'll give you this sum of money to do so, or you can be out in 30 days and we'll give you this sum of money to do so. I closed that door, and I don't remember exactly what happened, but I'll tell you, I'm sure if I could have, if there were a camera there, I probably just fell into a pool of despair, frankly, because all this work, a year long of trying to get this modification and being ups and downs and told I got it, and then literally having that knock on the door and saying, you're out. I enlisted some friends, and I actually did get all of our possessions, my son and myself, all of our stuff packed and out the door in 30 days. And I was really fortunate because I had found a rental, and I had to write a letter. I wrote a letter to the owner of this rental home and said, I've had this financial collapse here, but I'm worthy to rent to. If you give me a chance, I won't make you sorry. I'll pay extra deposit or rent or whatever you need. But my son and I need a place to go. And fortunately, this woman, she did it. And I proceeded to move into this rental with my son. But when you go through that, you can't just have a foreclosure like that and then just walk away. I ended up having to file bankruptcy and had the foreclosure, and this all just kind of came cascading down at that point. And I was just despondent because this dream of taking care of my son and having this little home and building something just came to a crashing halt, and it felt like it was really out of my hands. However, while that had occurred, once I was in a stable place with my son in a rental, I knew that I would never stop working. I would never stop trying to rebuild my credit. So about a year and a half passes. I'm in the rental. I'm working 2 or 3 jobs, making it work. And I get a letter in the mail. And it's from, I don't know, Dewey, Cheatham and Howe. I don't know, some law firm. That's an inside joke from NPR. Anyway, so you can cut that. Anyways, but I got a letter in the mail, and I opened it, and it was a settlement letter because my house had been foreclosed upon erroneously. I was not supposed to be foreclosed upon. I was one of the people who was supposed to have been modified. And the way that they remedied that after having foreclosed and taken the house and sold it out from under me was to send me a check. And there was no check in the world that could make up for the loss of that dream that I had. And I honestly opened it and I just burst into tears. And my boyfriend at the time was like, why are you upset? You got this money. And I just said, I just don't think you understand. Like, having a home it meant everything to me. And building this place, I built all these memories with my son, and it's gone. But, I probably had a good party with some of that money, and it was whatever. But what I realized is I want to own another home, and I don't ever want to go through this again, but I know that I can. So fast forward to 2015. 2015, I actually had a lender who started reaching out to me, cold calling me, talking to me about, hey, you might be ready. And probably I had like clicked a link or something, you know how it goes, to see if I qualified for a loan. And I was with a new person, my now husband, and he had his own house in Middleton, and I was still in my rental. And I thought, well, maybe it's time. It's been a couple years. Maybe I should find out what I can do. And you know what? I qualified. I qualified for a home loan. And not only did I qualify for a home loan, I qualified all by myself. And that feeling of I literally had started everything over. I had to rebuild my credit from scratch. I got offered a credit card where you put money on it. You put $300 on it, and then you spend it and you pay it back. And I had done that over time just to build my credit back up to the point where I had functional credit again. And to come from that place and losing everything in that way that I did financially, and then be told, no, you qualify on your own and you can start shopping. It was exhilarating, and it was a reminder that tenacity matters. That even when you are so far down and you feel like a failure, you can work through those emotions and feel what you need to feel and pick yourself up and dust yourself off and keep going and get yourself back where you want to be. And I ended up, my husband and I found a house we liked. I bought it and under my name only. And then later we refied and did this, that, and the other thing. But I did it. And I wanted to tell this story because like I said at the beginning, I encounter people all the time who have credit struggles, have been through bankruptcies, have been through crisis financially, and I understand it all too well. And there's a way back. And that's what I want you to know is there's a way back. It's a rebuilding process, and you can do it. And I believe in you. And I'm here if you want to come up with a strategy, if you want to just talk about it, bend my ear a little bit, and let's come up with a way and a path, because it can be done. If I can do it after all that and what I went through, I believe that anyone can. So thanks for listening to my story.